Okay, so for this exercise, we're going to learn how to, we're going to perfect our cloning. We're also going to learn how to use the patch tool. So we're going to start out with clone tool again. And when we use clone, remember we use a brush. And that brush, we want the hardness scale to, we don't want it to be 100%, which would be a really clean, crisp edge like this circle here. We also don't want it to be at 0, which would give us a really fuzzed out circle. We kind of want in between. So I would say 50 to 60-ish. Doesn't have to be any size in particular. We can adjust that. And then we want our opacity to be about 50 to 60, our flow to also be 50 to 60. We have the option of setting aligned on or off. If it's aligned when we make a source point, when we tell the computer what part we want to copy, as we move our brush, the point will change, it'll shift. If we turn it off, the source point will not be aligned, it will not move, it'll stay put. We can adjust to current layer, current and below, or all layers. Since we're only working with one layer, current is fine. I'm going to go ahead and use aligned for right now. And remember to adjust your brush, you can use brackets. So you can use the right bracket to make the brush bigger, the left bracket to make the brush smaller. You could also do it up here. This is just a little bit longer. You can adjust size. So those bracket keys are next to the P key on your keyboard. Alright, now first thing is to set the source point, and that's where the computer is going to copy from. So I'm going to option click to the side of the line, not on the line. I'll let go of option. I'll go over and I'll paint on top of the line. Now because I have the opacity and the flow down, it takes more than one click to go solid. I'm doing that so that I can blend easy. And I'll probably just move bouncing back and forth from both sides of the line to blend it. But now because I'm using the aligned sample, notice what happens as I grab a source point. If I start to paint down, notice the source point is moving too. So you can also kind of blend that way. Just be careful, make sure the source point doesn't get to a place where it's going to copy pixels that aren't going to match what you're trying to paint. So I would get into the habit of option clicking fairly often to set your source point and then just kind of move it around. So you're kind of doing lots of little clicking to do this cloning. Option click, let go, source point. Now this version of Photoshop has a really nice feature that lets you make sure that when you start to paint that it's level. And as I go down to paint more of the sunset, I'm going to option click to set a source point. And then when I go over to where I'm going to paint, I can see what it's going to paint. It gives me a little visual of it. So before I start clicking, I'm going to make sure that that bright orange color is aligned so it's making a nice level line. The older version didn't have this. You had to just guess, and then you had to undo if you got it wrong. But this one will let you know. So that's kind of a really nice feature that I think was a good thing that they added. So it'll also let you know if your source point wasn't a very good place, you can kind of undo and don't do that piece. From going from side to side, you can start to really blend in. So now as you continue to clone, just try to make this nice and level. If it doesn't look good, remember you have your history panel. You can always jump back to before you did it so that you're not messing it up. Because once it's messed up, it isn't really that easy always to fix it. So I would opt for going back rather than continuing on and just trying to get it to work. So I'm going to just option click, let go, paint. making sure I'm getting those little bands of color of the oranges and the yellows as even as I can. And I'm just bouncing back and forth from side to side to do it. Now if you're making circles, your brush is too hard, so just soften it up some, because you know, you don't want that. Or you can also, in some cases, just adjust the brush size. Maybe you want to go a little bigger or a little smaller. So, you know, it's not probably going to be the thing where you get it perfect unless you really, really, really work and work and work. But the idea is really just to get it to where we're not going to notice it. Okay, so the patch tool is a tool that's pretty neat in that it'll let you grab a chunk of picture and move it somewhere else. It'll also let you select the part you don't want, and then you can kind of hide it under something else. Let me show you how that works. So even if you're not quite done, stop for a moment and just see this part so that you get how to do it. So patch tool lives under the Band-Aid, the spot healing brush. And it has options of source and destination. If it's on source, it's going to let you grab the part you don't want and move it so that it goes away. If it's on destination, it'll let you grab a piece and move it to hide. So it works really good when you have solid color. So I'm going to set it on source and show you how it works there. Basically, I'm going to circle a piece of this white line, grayish line, and I'm going to click within that circle or ovally shape, and I'm just going to move it. Notice how it let me move. Now one bummer is it does sort of try to blend a little, so it'll get a little fuzzy on the edges, but I'll deselect and then I could do that again if I wanted to just try to clean it up a little. Now, if it's on destination, then you basically grab a clump off where the line is and you move it and patch the line with it. So it just lets me place it on top. And then I'll deselect to lose that selection. So I'm going to zoom in where I have detail. And I might go in small chunks to get this part. But I'll go and I'll grab, oh, I have it on destination still, hold on, so I guess I'll do it. I'll switch back to source. So I'm going to grab the piece I want to get rid of, and then I'm going to move it until it's hidden. Let go, deselect, Command D, and just grab pieces a little at a time until you get it. You might have to clone too, where this is blending through. I would have to clone. I'm going to grab a chunk of this piece, see if I can replace it. That worked pretty good. And then I might switch back to clone just because I have feel like I have a little more control for, painting. And I'll just go in and try to get rid of that grayness that was there. Like so. Now for the water, you could try patching it too. It might leave a little bit of line there, right? But it is doable. So you can patch, grab a section. And this is probably the most challenging piece to clone right here. But just move it out until it's gone. Try to line up your waves as best you can. And you can get rid of big chunks. You do end up with a few pixels that are a little bit choppy. I might switch back to clone, and I might use a small brush. So I'm using my bracket keys, and then I'll just try to blend those lines out. So, you know, your little brush to really get details. And hopefully, you know, with your creatures, you won't have giant sections to clone. You'll have small sections. So remember, the purpose of this exercise is not just to finish, but it's to learn how to control these tools. So really do kind of try to zoom in. Don't work from too far away so that you can't tell what you're doing. Adjust your brush size, big or small, depending on the level of detail in the area that you're cloning. If it's a cloudy sky and it's mostly just grayish, you could work with the big brush, but when you've got a lot of color change, you're probably going to want to work small. As I get to where the wave color really changes, I'm going to go and I'm going to just be careful to try to get the lines to look level. Like so. So I'll just keep going. I'm option clicking often to set a source point. And it'll get to where you're not thinking about it. You know, you're just clicking and you know how the tool works. It takes a little bit to get there though.